Hello and welcome to Policy Bazaar. I'm Arjun Bhagat. Now, costs related to medical conditions and emergencies are increasing every day, which really translates into a large amount of money being spent in a short span of time by an individual who falls sick or the supporting family. This often results in financial hardships. In these situations, medical insurance is a must. But for all its virtues, the stark reality is that the condition of health insurance in India is poor. 85% of the Indian population still does not use health insurance to finance their medical expenditure. Now, why is this the case? To help demystify the concept of health insurance, we have with us Yashish Dhaya, CEO of PolicyBazaar, and along with him, we have a special guest, Dr. Amarnath Ananthanarayanan, MD and CEO of Bharati AXA General Insurance. Now, welcome to the show. Let me start with you, Yashish. 85% of India is still not insured. That's a very large sum. But we have that other 15%. Are they adequately insured, and why is this the case?
Yeah, that's the bigger point, that even the 15% that has the medical insurance is not adequately insured. Let me give you a very simple example. Our company has about 1,100 people. We have a group health cover that covers all 1,100 of them, which gives about 1 lakh rupees cover for, that will really not cover any major disease whatsoever. So whether it's a heart attack or something else that happens, it's going to be between 1.5 to 2.5 lakhs is the minimum. A friend of mine, his wife, while having a cup of tea, suddenly complained of a headache. And that friend of mine lost about 20 lakhs in the next 2 years. He is the CTO of Yatra.com, so anybody can check. Basically, a disease does not always tell you when it's coming, and that's precisely why you have health insurance. So most people are not adequately covered. Most people are relying on either a company-provided health cover. There are very few people who have gone out and individually taken a health cover which will last them till their graying years, all through their life, which is, most of the health costs, about 70% of the global health costs come because of diseases which have a repetitive nature of cost, right? And once you have them, no company is going to cover them. It's very simple. Many complaints we get is, why don't companies cover once a disease is known? Of course they won't. It's a known cost. It's a fact. It's meant to cover risk, not known costs, right? So that is the real problem, and people are not taking it very seriously. The cost of healthcare has gone up. Earlier, it was a very simple situation where you went to the nearby doctor, you spent a few hundred rupees, and you were sorted and you got back. That is not the case any longer. Any visit to a hospital costs a few thousand rupees. So I think people need to obviously get aware and just take it.
Dr. Amarnath, you run one of the largest insurance companies. In your experience, why is health insurance so important? And how do we actually, as Indians, how do we view it? What has your experience been?
I think the first thing is, why are 85% people still not insured? I think a lot of that is the legacy of the joint family system that we had, and people pooled their resources, and the whole move towards nuclear family has just happened. Secondly, I think people are not realizing the impact of health inflation, the cost of treatment. What is also happening as far as the medicine improves is that people are living longer, and there are better ways to save people, and the cost of saving people are going up. So I think those are three things that Indians have not quite realized, which is why they are either not insured or severely underinsured. And I think, unfortunately, even in India, if you go back, insurance is considered as a saving instrument, not an instrument of protection. And one of the standard reasons...
So that's the mindset is what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So, all right, so let's get into the health insurance component of it. Now, what are the different areas that a health insurance plan, a good health insurance plan, should cover?
So I think there are multiple facets to health insurance. One is the standard policy, which covers for reimbursement of the hospitalization costs. Then there is the critical illness plan, which covers specific illnesses like cancer or lung disease, etc. And again, there is a benefit component to that. So one is the hospitalization cost, but what if I'm not in hospital, or I'm self-employed and I can't go to work, my income suffers, to cover all the costs of maybe credit card outstanding, mortgage, EMIs, other household expenses. You have critical illness benefit policies. Then there are the hospital cash plans, which give additional benefit to customers which are outside of the hospitalization costs. So these are the three basic variants that are prevalent in India. Outside India, I think there are more refined products, especially in terms of retirement, because right now You take the example of my mother. She was old. She didn't need to be hospitalized, but there is nursing care, nurse at home. So all those other expenses are also getting covered. There are specific, policies that are, gender specific, especially on the cancer side. So a lot of different policies which can give.
So a lot
health
of new
insurance
innovations,
benefits.
but we'll get to that in a bit. But Yashish, tell me, one of the mind blocks that a lot of people have is how will we get that money back? There's a hospitalization process. There's that fear you won't really get. And there have been a lot of stories that, the expenses were 4 lakhs, but they only got 3 lakhs.
See, every health insurance policy comes with certain conditions. And those conditions, of course, have a total limit on the cost that one can claim. They sometimes also have disease by disease cost limits. Right? So before buying a policy, one has to understand these things. We cannot say that there was a fine print or there was this and that and the other. You're getting into a contract with somebody. It's going to cover expenses which are likely to arise. And hence, one has to be aware of these. There are simple ways of finding these out, and there are more complex ways of finding these out. Right? Now, these sublimits can come in the terms of room rents, can come for specific diseases, can come in the shape of the total sum assured that you need. And of course, afterwards, if your claim is larger than that, it is difficult to bring it down. Now, if you are within your limits of claim, and the company is essentially negotiating with you to settle a claim faster or quicker and pay you a certain less amount, that is unethical as far as I am concerned.
Right. Now let's talk about the exclusions of health insurance policies. Typically, what are those exclusions, and what are the kind of time limits that we are looking at?
See, again, depending on which policy one chooses, it could be anywhere from 2 years to 4 years, depending on various medical conditions. And the biggest one, which seems to be having the most effect, is pre-existing illnesses. But then the regulator, the IRDA, stepped in to define and make it, the definition of pre-existing illnesses uniform across the industry. Plus, I think with portability happening, I think this is becoming less of an issue. But yeah, as Yashish mentioned, one should always look at the terms and conditions and what is getting covered, what is not getting covered. One of the things that happens is sometimes in some companies, congenital diseases may not get covered as well. So depending on the policy, I think if one reads the wording, it's very clear what is covered and what is not covered.
Right, Yashish, would you like to add something to that?
I think, So I think there's been a lot of innovation in the sector. And what you are finding is a lot of companies are providing policies which are fairly comprehensive. And if I look at 3 years ago or 4 years ago and the policies that exist in the market today, there's a lot more comprehensiveness coming in terms of the coverages being offered. In some of the cases, the exclusions are more limited. There are certain permanent exclusions. And depending on the situation of an individual, the age of an individual, the conditions he meets as he enters the policy and the company providing that policy, the exclusions can be different. But a person does, whenever you're buying a health insurance policy, you do need to dedicate a good 5 days to 10 days in researching it well before procuring it, because that is a necessity. Without that, you cannot go ahead with the health insurance. It's a complicated product. It's not like you just bought it. It's not as simple as, if I got a health policy of 4 lakh rupees, everything up to 4 lakhs is covered. No, it's not that straightforward.
Right. Dr. Amarnath, another concern that some of our viewers have often written to us about are loading premiums, that if they've taken a claim in the first year of their policy, the next year they find that the cost has increased. I mean, can you, shed some light on that? And is that a practice across the industry? I mean, how does that actually work?
See, again, it is not true that all insurance companies will end up doing that. Most companies may not do it. But I think that's one of the things that the regulator is working on, which is trying to give long-term insurance policies, even from the general insurance industry, to the customer. If that happens, the coverage is fixed and the pricing is fixed for a longer period of time, so to get over one of the issues the customers may have on this front.
So, another thing that one has noticed is that there's a lot of emphasis by the companies and also, by experts saying that, look, the sooner you get into health insurance, the better. Come and take it at a young age. So what are the benefits of that? Because, a young person may say, I'm a healthy guy. Why should I end up spending 10, 15,000 every year on something that I'm not going to use?
Yeah, you're right. I think the emphasis on youth, for one, the premiums are much lower. Second, the chance of one getting a disease is lower. So even if there is sort of a waiting period or an exclusion period for 2 years, 4 years, it will get immediately met. Because if I take a policy when I'm much older, especially if I'm close to retirement, the chances of my getting an illness is much more, and therefore I may not get covered. And these days, with the stress that we are in our day-to-day lives, we're getting a lot of the diseases much faster than our parents did or our grandparents did. So I think it's advisable to take the policies as soon as possible. You talk about 10 or 15,000 rupees. Yes, there is an ATD benefit of 15,000. So there is a tax benefit that customers can also avail of. So it just makes sense to take it as early as possible.
All right, on that note, we have to take a short break. On Twitter, you can write to us at PolicyBazaar _in. You can also write to us at ask@policybazaar.com. We'll see you shortly after this break. Keep watching.
I'm the juggler now. I juggle lives, the many lives of Hugh Jackman. My friends, my work, my passions.
Presenting the revolutionary new canvas turbo, can juggle many lives.
It's nothing like anything.
The biggest ever tribute to the master.
He's definitely, to me, the greatest batsman alive.
For those who know him best.
That India cap, that really helped him kept going.
Cricket, I would imagine there would be three, I would imagine. Sir Don Bradman, Sir Garfield Sobers, and Sachin Tendulkar. I mean, absolutely born to play cricket and take the game to a completely new level.
From his fiercest opponents.
मैंने काबिल सचिन से कहा यार सचिन बस फर्क से हमारा 13-14 रन का है. Otherwise टैलेंट हमारे जैसा ही है.
The world takes the stage at the India Today conclave to say Salam Sachin.
Lava Create Possibilities presents Salam Sachin. Co-presented by JP Cement, Andar Se Solid. In association with Amul Macho, Bade Aaram Se. Snacks partner Priya Gold Italiano Choco Cookies, simply irresistible.
Hello, Appa. It's bad news, sir. Shanmu Aman is no more than... Good news. मेरी किसी आंटी की डेथ हो गई. श्रीराम, प्लीज ये मत कहना कि तुम नहीं आ रहे हो. अप्पा, swear on you आऊंगा ना फ्यूनरल के लिए. अप्पा चौथे पर आऊंगा ना गारंटी. Swear on you. Any more swear on me? तो मेरा 14 होगा और गारंटी तुम वो भी मिस कर देना.
To take a great photo, you need the right place, the right time, and the right tools. And to make sure you always have the right tools, we put them in something you'll always have with you. Meet the 41-megapixel Windows Phone Nokia Lumia 1020.
Let's look into future India with BP, where energy makes over 1 billion lives better. Energy discovered in the deepest waters and seen even through the rocks. With investments in lubricants, oil, gas and petrochemicals, we'll fuel this future together. BP in India. There is energy in this partnership.
Technology is not about cold metal. It's about giving people access to a healthier life, so that they can be there for their loved ones. And technology does not discriminate. It opens its doors to everyone. That's what our advanced cancer diagnostic scanners do every day. For more and more people in India now, technology is hope.
Go viral or die trying. The MTS Emblaze Ultra, now on 3G Plus network.
Welcome back to Policy Bazaar. I'm Arjun Bhagat and we are continuing our discussion with Yashish and Dr. Amarnath. Now tell me, there's this a revolution of sorts which has happened in terms of buying insurance online. What are the advantages of that, Yashish?
As far as health insurance is concerned, I just said it's there are certain complexities in the product which need to be understood. It is far easier to understand the complexities by spending a few hours on the net because you get the declaration straight from the companies. You can check on any of the comparison sites. There's lots of information that you can get very quickly. I doubt you would get the same level of information even if you went and spoke to 10 different agents. You would find that difficult. The second part is from the company's perspective and from your own perspective in terms of claims management, self-declaration. I have tried to buy policies where usually when you buy a policy, as you may have done, usually the person will say, okay, sign here.
Right.
There's the pencil cross, and you sign there, and you don't fill any of the information yourself. The information is left to be filled by the professional, who's the intermediary.
And the person often says, I'll sign it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, and no, so he signs it, the person signs it, but the information that's filled in, you have to be aware of that information, and you have to look at it very carefully, because there are declarations about your family history, there are declarations about your health history, there's declarations about your body mass, which have to be accurate. In case those are inaccurately declared, your policy may not be honored. So, those are the two areas which online really helps in.
What has your experience been in terms of online?
No, I think it's a nascent market in India, the whole piece on online. But I think the biggest thing about online is it gives the customer a lot of convenience. And I think I talked about buying medical insurance early, so purely from an insurance company distribution perspective. If that's the people who should be buying medical insurance and they are the ones who are really online, I think it's a good fit for the kind of audience and the target masses who should be buying insurance. I think it's a good distribution channel to be having. Obviously, like whatever Yashish mentioned, there are a lot of advantages in terms of knowing what you're actually signing up to when you take up insurance online.
Now, we touched upon this about the service issues to do with an insurance claim. I mean, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because there is that apprehension amongst a lot of people that their claims won't come in time, it'll take a long time, and there'll be harassment. I mean, are those founded?
See, the consumers obviously complained because they have faced difficulty many times in claiming, although there's been a lot of improvement with the cashless claims, and Bharti AXA in particular has been running a campaign around the claims guarantee. And I have attended a lot of operational meetings with a lot of insurance companies, and I do see very senior level focus in terms of claims management, timeline, etc. But I think Amar might be a better person to answer, how do companies really improve the claims experience so that customers get more confidence? Insurance is a confidence product. People need to buy more of it. They have to have confidence that they will get paid in a painless manner. So, how exactly do they go about trying to improve that?
So how has your experience been, and what is the kind of feedback that you are getting from customers?
I think the
consumers.
The feedback that we're getting, the biggest thing, as he mentioned, is trust or confidence. So as long as the promise is made clear, I think settling claims is not the issue. The problem is, what is the right promise? And the current setup, you have the insurance company, and then you have third-party administrators, and then you have who are reselling it. If all of them talk the same language and the promise made to the customer is the same, I think claim settlement becomes issue. The problem is they all may not end up speaking the same language. So what we are doing from a claim settlement perspective is, whenever someone gets admitted, we immediately call the person to find out how they are doing and what is covered, what is not covered under the policy, so that they know exactly what they can get as a claim amount end of the day, rather than being taken for a ride. So I think, again, the personal touch helps. And I think one thing, we talked about online distribution. I think the next step, and probably PolicyBazaar can take the lead on that, is also online settlement of claims. Because now with NEFT available, everything can be settled online without any interaction. And while there is cashless, especially for planned treatments, you can have, for reimbursements, especially, everything being online and settled to your bank account through NEFT. So I think that's another way of improving the service levels to the customers, rather than sending your documents, waiting for it to be approved, and a check coming from a courier company which may not end up coming.
Right, and one looks at the insurance industry, huge strides have been made in the last 10, 15 years, huge strides. Talk about that evolution and also the new innovations that we might see in the next year or two as far as insurance products are concerned.
So, the amazing thing is, now you have CEOs of insurance companies speaking about online claim settlement. That is phenomenal. Now, that is something you're going to see happening over the next few years. As I look back at the health insurance industry particularly, where it started from was the was the public sector companies, and there was a particular process. You got your policy and your claims was a very standard process. As the private companies came in, the first thing that really, so the private companies came in about 2003, and they've been increasing ever since. One of the biggest pieces that came in was cashless claim settlement. What that meant was you went to the hospital and you did not put your own cash. You got paid. You got the claim was settled at the point when you were leaving the hospital. This happened because of very close connectivity between doctors and hospitals and the insurance companies. That was one big advantage. And now, after that came policies which had lifelong renewal, which is a massive thing because most of your claims are going to come when you have, and now it's obviously become mandatory for all companies, but that's happened because certain companies pushed the envelope in that direction. I think you are having simpler and fewer exclusions and simpler policies. You are having fewer sublimits. There are companies coming with no sublimits. Once you have a 4 lakh rupee policy, you have a 4 lakh rupee policy, end of story. I think the next evolution is really going to come around consumer understanding. The consumer needs to understand he needs critical illness policies.
And that's something that you've been stressing for a long time,
Absolutely.
that apart from your medical insurance policies, you need that critical term, I mean, not...
The critical illness policies are a must. There are about 27 diseases, some people even go up to 35 diseases, which can cause big... See, insurance is about those events which do not happen often, but when they do happen, they can have a very drastic impact. That is what you take insurance for. Not for the cold and cough that you get every day or every third week, right? So, I think critical illness policies are separate from health insurance policies or attached to them, but they do need to be taken, and almost every policy should come with a critical illness plan. Now, most of the corporate policies or most of, they do not have an additional critical illness element built into them. And, those are the kind of innovations you would see, and I do believe the service side will have a lot of innovation because the customer has to have the confidence that when he has the policy, it's a very standard document and he is going to get a claim, and there's going to be no haggling at the end of it.
Right, Dr. Amarnath, before we conclude the show, let's talk a little bit about what is an ideal policy in terms of, a person wants a certain health insurance. How does he or she go about choosing the right plan?
Okay, I think it's a very interesting question. And again, if you're going back to the tourism industry, we stay in 1-star hotels, 3-star hotels, 5-star hotels. It's a function of what exactly you're looking for. The basic things that go into determining what kind of policy is: one, what is the cover you're looking for? How big is your family? Do you want to cover your parents as well? Do you want to cover your kids as well? So you want to buy a family floater? You want to buy an individual policy? What is your annual income? Because Yashish talked about critical illness. That's a benefit policy which covers my EMIs and various expenses I have. So it's a function of the expenses I have. So if my monthly expenditure is, say, 50,000 rupees, say 6 months, a critical illness hits you, you need to have a 3 lakh cover. So depending on the circumstances.
So one really needs to prepare this checklist and say, all right, these are the different components that I need to cover. And but Yashish, say for a middle class family of 4.
I think the first thing is a policy must last a lifetime. It should be able to cover your basic health costs. You should necessarily have a critical illness plan along with it for your income replacement, as well as actually covering that illness, because those illnesses it's likely that they may breach the limits of your health insurance policy. If you can take a plan where there is a guaranteed increase of sum assured allowed, because expenses will go up in the future. And just think about it. Nobody was saying buy a 5 lakh or a 10 lakh rupee health policy 15 years ago. Now the health policy you are taking is going to last a lifetime.
Right.
I'm 40 today, I would need it also when I'm 80. At that time the cost will be dramatically
different. One really needs to look at it from a very long-term horizon now.
Long-term horizon.
And of course we've been stressing on the show its criticality, but that's all the time that we have on the show, Yashish. Thanks Dr. Amarnath for joining us on Policy Bazaar. That's all the time that we have, but do write to us on Twitter. It's at PolicyBazaar_in, or you can write to us at ask@policybazaar.com, and we'll see you next time on Policy Bazaar.